Say guys, today I'm talking about bevel angle. Razor bevel angle. What is it? Why is it important? Why do you need to know it, or why should you know it, or why can it be helpful? Well, let's go to the drawing right off. All right, so this is a cross section of the razor. And what we're doing is we're measuring the bevel angle right here. The bevel angle on a razor is what we call the included angle because it's the whole thing, both sides. Whereas when you talk about a knife, most people talk about, it's 18 degrees, 20 degrees, 22 degrees. They're talking about just one side of it. When if you set your jig or how you raise the blade off of the stone, they're talking about one side. So the included angle on a knife is much greater than what it is on a razor. So what we're talking about when we talk about 16 degrees, 18 degrees, we're talking about the entire angle. Now, to calculate that angle, or where that angle comes from, is we're basically dealing with triangles here. We're dealing with the height, or actually the width of the blade, or some people refer to that as the width of the blade, and then the thickness of the spine. And based on those two measurements, we can calculate the bevel angle. And I'm going to show you how I do that on my Excel spreadsheet. So yeah, that's what we're looking for right there. Now, the thing is that there's a couple ways that we can calculate those things, or we can come up with those two measurements. I use my micrometer to do that. What I'll do is just to first measurement, we're going to measure the thickness of the spine. I just put it on the spine, measure. Let's see if I can do it this way. We can read there. So what we're doing is we're getting the thickness of the spine. Now, for the width of the blade, that's where it gets a little bit trickier. All right. Now, the thing is, to measure the width of the blade, probably the best way to do it is, again, with the micrometer. And what I've seen people do, I'm being careful here, is they'll measure the width this way, and they'll clamp down on the blade. I don't like to do that because I think it'll ding up the blade. So what I do is I will take the blade and I'll put it on my tape measure there, and I'll do it that way. Okay, that's how I do it. I'll come up with the number on that. All right, so that'll be, say that's like a 6/8 razor. That's how you do it. Now, there are some things here to consider, and usually points of argument on the forums about this, and especially the width or the height of the blade. All right, so when we're calculating bevel angle, we measure from the tip, and we measure down to right here where these triangles, the base of the triangles. Now, here's the thing. The base of the triangle is not the same as the edge of the razor. I'm going to refer to this part as the ice cream cone, okay? So that's the rounded top of the razor. If you're to look at this gold dollar, you can see how the top here is rounded. Technically, you don't measure that part when you're calculating bevel angle, because you got to measure from what we call the hone line, or the stone line, where the razor, when you lay it on the stone, where it last touches. This part that hangs out over the end of that, that's inconsequential. It's not going to matter. So we have to measure from this point here up to the center. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I need to make this distinction between the width of the blade versus calculating bevel angle, because when you use the width of the blade to calculate bevel angle, it's not always going to be the same as the width of the blade. Like I was saying, you have to measure from the hone line. This is the part that actually touches the stone. In this particular razor, this part above here, this part's really not going to matter as far as calculating your bevel angle, because it's going to be the thickness of the spine at this point right here. So that's the part that matters. This part can stick out as far as it wants. It's not going to change the bevel angle. Here, let's take it from a side or a cross-sectional view. All right, so the same thing here. If you were to, this blade may be a 1-inch wide blade, but if you're going to calculate bevel angle, you have to measure the thickness of the spine at this point right here. Actually, this looks like it's about the same, but you know, this is going to be your hone line here, but you have to measure the width of the blade from here to here. All right, it's not the whole thing, because this part, like I said, it's not going to matter. This part can stick out a mile. It doesn't change the fact that this is your stone or hone line here that's resting on the stone. So your thickness is measured from here, and your width is measured from this point to the edge. All right, so now on the other end of that, as we look here at this particular razor, this is a flat top razor. This is your hone line or stone line right here. You're going to measure all the way from up at the top. It's flat across the top here. So you measure from this point all the way down to the edge. So this one, you're actually utilizing the entire width of the blade and utilizing that width, that number, to measure, to calculate the bevel angle. So those are the two things, those are the two measurements that you need to calculate bevel angle on the razor. All right, so let me go to the spreadsheet, and I'll show you how that works. All right, so this is my Excel spreadsheet for calculating bevel angle. It's real simple. I kind of made it up the way that I like it, with the names. And these two things, spine thickness and blade width, you enter those, and it automatically calculates your bevel angle. Now, just so you know, I don't know anything about Excel. All right, for you guys that do know, that's your formula right there. Right in here is the formula. If you're using different columns besides B and C for the spine thickness and blade width, obviously you're gonna just change the formula accordingly. But the way that it works is, I put this column here for name. You don't need that, but let's just go for the hypothetical. And the spine thickness is 250 thousandths. And the blade width is, let's just say it's a 7/8 blade width. All right. So how do you turn that, convert that into thousandths? Well, you divide your numerator by the denominator, and it's 875. So our blade width is 875. That's thousandths of an inch. All right. Now, I need to say at this point that for some reason, anytime bevel angle gets onto the forums, and Badger and Blade, I've been involved, it always seems to degenerate into a fight over decimal places. 3 places aren't significant. These mathematical dicks. It's thousands. It's 250 thousandths. This is American, guys. That's how we do it. And all you need to do is click there, and it automatically calculates that. Okay, so you got a 250 thousandths or 1/4 inch thick spine, and it's 7/8 wide. 16.4 degrees is going to be your bevel angle. All right, so let's do some practical stuff here, and how I would actually use this while honing a razor, and why I would need it, and why I calculate this, and All right, so a guy sends me large custom blade. He says it doesn't shave. So I decide to measure this thing, because looking at the spine, it was hugely thick. It was 375 thousandths of an inch thick. That's 3/8 of an inch. All right. The blade was a 7/8. That's 875, we said, right? All right. So now we're near 25 degrees. But it gets worse, because the blade tapered towards the heel to a 6/8. So that would be 0.750, or 3/4. Look at that, 29 degrees. That thing ain't shaving. All right, so anyone that says it's the shave test that matters, this thing ain't shaving. It might shave, but it's going to do a whole lot better when the bevel angle is in the proper range. 16 degrees, by the way, is the sweet spot. All right, that's what I find. That's what other guys have found, but it's not just me. I talked to Glenn GS6 Gun, and they did a survey on SRP many years ago. They came up with 16 degrees. So 16 degrees is the sweet spot. I say 16 degrees plus or minus a couple, but really 16 is where you want to be. That's what you want to shoot for. Let's take, for example, a typical gold dollar. All right, typical gold dollar is somewhere around 230 thousandths, 235 thousandths. Let's go 235. All right, those things are 6/8 of an inch. Now, you have to remember, when you measure the bevel angle, we talked about the ice cream cone on there, the rounded top of the spine. Well, you kind of have to knock that off. And I've figured out that that's about 50 thousandths. So we're 6/8 is 750. You knock the 50 thousandths off. So gold dollars are about 19.3 degrees. Just saying, they can be a little bit sluggish out of the box. So that's why I try and knock those spines down. I'll actually try and get those spines down to about 200. 205 at 0.700. And you come up in the 16 degree range. So that's actually a really nice place to be. Okay. So, guy sends me a razor the other day. It was a Brian Brown. Semi-custom, and he says it just doesn't shave that well. So I hone it up, and when I'm done, I take a look at it, and I see this. See these little chippy things in there. And I look through other parts of the blade. Similar stuff. Not as clean as the Brian Browns that I'm used to seeing. So what I did is I went back to the stones. I killed it. I killed the edge, flattened it out, went 5,000, 8,000 finished stone, and I saw the same thing. Now, to be honest with you, I did that 3 times, and I kept seeing this chippy stuff on the blade. So then I said, all right, well, let me do this. Let me measure the spine thickness. It came up at 230 thousandths. And this thing was a 15/16. Okay? 15/16 wide. So 15 divided by 16. 937.937. All right. So now it's 14 degrees, 14.1. Let's say 14 degrees. That's a little bit steep. Those can feel a little bit grabby at 14 degrees, but also the edge becomes a little more precarious. It becomes a little more susceptible. Usually not a problem on Brian's razors, but this particular one, obviously it was a problem because what I decided to do at this point is put a layer of tape on it. I put a layer of tape on it and then finished it up, and now this is what it looks like. Okay? So what I did is I put a layer of Super 88 tape. I'll just leave that there. I can't do it. And so I put a layer of Super 88 tape, 3M, 8 mil or 8 thousandths thick. So we have to double that, right? Because it's on both sides of the spine. So now it becomes 246 spine thickness. And the blade width is the same. And it's 15.1 degrees, so it bumped it up 1 degree, a layer of tape. So a layer of tape takes it up 1 degree. That's what a layer of tape does. I know some people say it's less than that. It's 1 degree per layer of tape. So what that did is that took care of that problem. So, you know, for me, that was important. And when I sent the razor back to the guy, it was awesome. He was extremely happy with it, especially since I took the warp out of it as well. Brian told me that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about the warp, because all you have to do is roll through it. I've had too many razors with warps that didn't shave great, and I fixed them all, and they all work great. So, it is what it is, Brian. Okay, here was another razor I just had last night. And it needed a little bit of work. I measured it up at 0.203. That was the spine thickness. The width was a halfway between 5/8 and 6/8, which was, what is that, an 11/16? 11 divided by 16. 6.875. So 0.687. 17 degrees. So I said at that point, I don't want to put any tape on that. I don't want to take it up to 18 degrees. So I did what I had to do, making corrections on it without the tape. So again, the guy got it back. He was very happy with this, and it shaved really well. So that was a happy case all the way around. A couple other things I wanted to say about the spreadsheet here, the bevel calculator. Oh, another thing. There's some people will say that there's a 4-to-1 ratio for bevel angle, meaning that the width of the spine should be 4 times, or the width of the blade should be 4 times the thickness of the spine. Okay, so 4 to 1, that yields a 14.4 degree bevel angle. That's a little bit steep, so it's really not 4 degrees. I think it's more of about 3.6, if I'm not mistaken. 3.6 to 1. Yeah, 3.6 to 1. So 4 to 1 is a little bit steep. I mean, if you like 14.5 degrees, like I said, 16 is my thing. Oh, also what I wanted to say about this bevel calculator is that it works for millimeters. If you guys measure in millimeters, it works exactly the same. So let's say your spine thickness is 7 millimeters and your width is 24 millimeters. It's going to calculate the same thing. So I'm still looking out for you metric blokes. All right, that's it on the bevel calculator, guys. All right, guys, wasn't that a lot of fun? I always enjoy that kind of stuff. That's just another video in my geometry series. Like I had mentioned earlier, if you're interested in that spreadsheet, just email me, drmatt357@hotmail.com. I can send that to you. I was thinking about doing a video on how to do one, but you know, guys that know how to use it can use that formula that I showed. But if not, I can just send it to you. It's a whole lot easier. So that's it. Make some comments down below and let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys watching. Enjoy your shave. Enjoy your honing. And we'll see you real soon.